The young girl selling shoes in Durban, 13 years old. Now this powerful woman who's running a company that employs over 100 people and is doing so well. A lot of the youth in the country are unemployable.
The aim of this entire journey is so that the learner becomes employable. When I started to grow and needed assistance, I was too afraid to ask somebody else to leave their job. I had this set of skills, he had this set of skills, and we just helped us growing organically over the years into a national company from our dining room table.
Till date, I think you've trained over 50,000 people.
Yes. My biggest passion in life is actually creating those material around each unit standard to unpack it. And that's why I continued on the CETA journey.
But when was the journey where you said, oof, this is tough?
2012, my husband got sick. He developed kidney failure. I want to say I love AI. This was amazing. It spoke to us in exactly the way we would. It was magical. The other big driving reason that companies engage and do learnerships is for their BEE scorecard.
My guest today is the director of one of the largest private training companies in South Africa, the leading training provider in the country with over 18 years of experience. Welcome, Kathy Ramsewak.
Thank you, Mpho.
I mean, you've been in education and training for a very long time. What has been the highlight of your industry?
The highlight of the fact that companies had to get involved and assist the youth in such a big way has been the highlight, because it gave us the opportunity and the platform to upskill such large number of youth to, so that they could go into the working environment and become more employable. So that has definitely been the highlight.
Maybe for some people that don't really know what it's all about, what is your company, Advanced Assessments and Training, all about?
Advanced Assessments and Training is a workplace skills company. So what that means is South Africa has been the innovator of this concept of putting together workplace skills in all industries, so training as well as workplace experience within a 1-year qualification. That would allow somebody who has not been in a workplace the opportunity to understand what it is to work in the workplace, as well as getting a skill in a specific qualification or a certificate around, for example, business administration, secretarial course, IT tech support. So something that's work function ready. So a certificate in that will allow them to then become employable for that work function.
Wow. I mean, I've heard many employers say that when the Gen Z age come to work, they often say they don't know anything about work. They don't know how work works. They don't know how the environment works. So you prepare them to be able to do that.
That's right.
Do you prepare people that already have skills or education, or do you start with that? Is that part of the program?
So there's two modes. You can train people. There are a lot of, I don't know if you remember in the old days, people used to say, oh, I've been working here for 10 years and someone with a degree came and became my boss.
Yes.
So to mitigate that, a person is allowed to, when they have work experience, go and RPL themselves, so get a recognition of prior learning for the certificate that I'm explaining now.
Okay.
So it can be that you can get a certificate for a job you've already doing and have experience for, and then you can be a fresh out of school youth, no work experience, and also partake in it. And then it is a longer period of time. So that is the year-long period when you're starting fresh. But with an RPL, if you're doing it for many years, you just need to do the assessments around it, and that could be any number of time, even 3 months.
Okay.
To get
I've heard of this phenomenon where people always say, some young person came from university with a degree and immediately became my supervisor, my manager.
Yeah.
So you basically allow people that don't have the certification to come and get the work experience and learn practically. Yes. And when they're done, they then go through a process where they can get certification.
Correct. So once they're done with their assessments, it's outcomes-based. There's no exam attached to it for now. Outcomes-based means you do a whole lot of assessments and then you are assessed. So with that assessment, you might not be competent in everything of the assessment. So an outcomes-based process, you have to get 100% for. So if you have not gotten 100% with your assignment, you'd be deemed not yet competent just on the outputs that you haven't achieved competence on, and you get retrained and reassessed until
so it's
you
all
reach.
based on competence.
Correct.
Oh, wow. So it's actual practical training
Yes.
on the job.
Yeah, so you facilitated, you're not lectured. So you facilitated to bring out the skill in that specific outcome, and then you are assessed on it.
Maybe for understanding, let's start with the educational system. So one would start off with preschool, after preschool, go to primary school, and then go to high school.
Yes.
When are they then eligible or able to come to you? At what grade?
From grade 10. So, for example, unfortunately, in life and in South Africa, well, in any country actually, not everybody finishes school. So this mode of college or college-driven training is to accommodate you from grade 10. So if you left school at grade 10 and you only have your grade 10 report, we can put you on a learnership from that age group. So the good thing is we have a system called an NQF framework within the country. The qualifications that you study at our institution or institutions like us is on that framework. So that means you could then, if you didn't do your, if you just did up to grade 10 and you came to us and you got a level 3 qualification, then a level 4 qualification, you could go all the way up to a doctorate because it's still on the same trajectory and path. So yes, that's the good thing about being in an institution. That's a good thing about the way they created this mode of delivery.
I mean, everybody grows up and they're told, go to university, and we only hear of the universities that are popularly known.
Yeah.
But we never really hear about the alternative or the other side of things. And I think it's quite refreshing to hear that. But there are people that are very skeptic about this, to say, why is it that the learning is different from the university systems? What have you found with your experience?
So why the learning is different? So what at the university type of delivery of qualification is modular. So you call that modular learning, and then if you look at the artisanal form of learning, they call that vocational. So I don't know if you're familiar with how artisans work. Artisans, they go in for a trade like just say plumbing or electrician. They go in and they also study for a period of maybe 3 years, and then in that time they are given practical work to do. Because remember, if they get it wrong, lives are involved. They cannot get it wrong. They need to learn what they need to learn, and they have hours of practical assessment within it that then makes them qualified at the very end when they do their testing, whatever testing, whether it's exam or not. So the space that we are in is a merger of both. So whereas in the artisanal side, you're getting theory and practical, here you're getting modular and practical. So the theory part is modular, like the university, and the workplace side is the practical. So you're going to have to be in a workplace with the same weighting scale. So it's 30 in an artisanal space. The theory versus the practical is 30% versus 70. So 70% of practical and 30% of theory. Same with us. It is 30% of practical, 70% of theory. So in that year, you will do 30% practical work and 70% at a workplace for that same skill. So
this is a merger of both.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're accredited as a private FET college.
That's right.
With the Department of Higher Education and Training. What is an FET college?
So further education and training. So as you were breaking it down earlier, it's so interesting that you used that. Well done. You go through nursery, then to primary, then to high school. High school is actually broken up into two. That, in America, they highlight it very well. They have middle school and all of that. That last part from grade 10 to 12 is called further education and training. It's called FET. I don't know if you've noticed it in any of your matric or any of your papers from grade 10 to matric, but it's your FET phase. So in that FET phase, you could go straight to, from when you finish that, into varsity. So similarly, this is called a further education and training because it's that gap before you can go to varsity. If you're interested in going to varsity, or it's a gap before you go into work. So that is why it's called FET.
Very interesting. I mean, you guys offer over 50 work-based qualifications. Yes. What have been some of your successful qualifications or ones that you...
Popular ones.
Yeah.
I think, ever since 2015 or, onwards, the most popular is obviously going to be IT-related qualifications. So we started off with mainly administration. So administration is a cross-industry qualification. And then services every industry because, no matter what work you do, there is going to be a level of administration. And for that reason, you're going to need an administrator. And so the most popular will obviously be administration because then that is opportunity for us to get you a job is much easier than for any other qualification. And then IT second to that. So those are our popular ones. And then obviously call center in South Africa is a huge buzzword, especially in Durban. So that is our third most popular qualification that we do.
Oh. And all of these qualifications take a year?
Yes.
Finish.
Oh, currently there's a new landscape coming through called QCTO where that might change, but predominantly it's a year, a focus of a year where you will learn and obtain that skill.
So with your experience in 18 years in the industry, you've become quite agile in terms of these programs. Can you explain, for a company, a corporate, or an institution that's looking to tweak, change, create, how do you do that? And have you done that before?
Yes. So we are a very agile institution, and what gave us our ability to be agile is me being able to sit in all seats of this journey. So how it started, I worked at Nedbank, and over the years, I had a passion for training. So I would train my own team, and then because I could train my own team, I was given the opportunity to train other teams within the NCCC environment, and I became a training manager. And in that space, or at that time, learnership started to take off in the country. So we would then, it necessitated us starting a learnership within the call center environment, and we did it with the Emmanuel's. It was an employment agency at that stage. I don't know if it still exists, but we did a large number of our call center agents were from Emmanuel's, and then we did the learnership with them. So it allowed me, from a client perspective, to understand the needs and the requirements that a client would need. Then I had to do my assessor and moderator because now I'm in this environment, and that allowed me to see what a POE building would be like. So from a learner point of view, I was then...
Let me just break that down. POE?
Portfolio of evidence.
Okay, cool.
So you have to create a portfolio of evidence during this 1 year period that has assignments in it, practical logbooks to say that you've actually done this work theoretically, and then you did it practically as well. So the assignments are not the only thing that you can have. You also need to show your practical experience within that portfolio of evidence. So you have to, whether you're doing a unit standard, because what happens is the qualification is broken down into unit standards, or whether you're doing a full qualification, a portfolio of evidence is what you'd need in order to get your certificate from the relevant CETA. And we'll touch on the CETAs just now. But so how it, in terms of then the job flow, I can't remember what your question was. What was your question?
No,
yes. Yeah, so then what happened was I left the bank, and I said I'll only leave the bank if I ever started something on my own. And because I had a passion for this, and this looked like something I would really love to do, I went into assessing and moderating, like opening a little consultancy where I did that for other providers. So I plugged into other providers. And when I did that, then we grew, because obviously I have a real love for learning this whole process because of, I think, maybe working in the bank, process-driven mindset. And then I used to ask a lot of questions to the CETAs, and then I understood what the process was like. So we created this magnificent process between my husband and I on how we would deliver the service. So we became a training provider eventually, and with that, we structured. So now we're sitting in the seat of what a training provider would need. So we had this unique viewpoint. And then to add to that, the CETA then invited me to become a verifier with them. What that means is I would then go and vet other training providers to see if they were on the right level to then award them accreditation. So that allowed me to see what the CETA needs. So with all those viewpoints in mind, we were able to create such an agile system to customize and allow every part of the journey to work for all the role players. So that has been what has allowed me to create this agile system and start it from start to finish to make sure that it lessens the maybe impact or the burden part of it too much on the employer who's sponsoring the whole initiative, to the learner, where they must enjoy what they do, and then to the CETAs who require the information. And of course, so we spoke about the three layers, and then of course us as an institution. So the aim of this entire journey is so that the learner becomes employable, because as you know, we need you to become employed. That's first prize, and that is our passion. So what drives advanced assessments and training is that at the end, the learner needs to become permanent somewhere, wherever they are, be it in the place that they hosted within the 1 year journey, or somewhere else. So we have a system that we created to allow that to happen, so that we can get as many as possible employed. Within that, what we did was we created mechanisms to ensure that the learner was happy to keep the job, where we actually pay out of our pockets for a psychometric test at the very beginning to see whether this learner enjoys working with their hands or working behind a desk. Because if I put you behind the desk and you're not a behind the desk person, you're not going to enjoy it and you're going to drop off. So what makes us really proud of our drop-off rate, because we've got a lower drop-off rate than any other training company, and that is because we start with the psychometric test to see if the learner is going to enjoy this journey. Because if you're somebody that's a high-level person that enjoys working with your hands, your best bet is IT tech support. You can be in the ceiling, you can be wherever, but it'll encourage you to stay in the job that you're in. And if you're someone that actually, for now, not a very high level, but you enjoy working with your hands, then the warehouse is most likely the qualification for you, or cleaning, and you'll be surprised how people enjoy what they do if they're in the right space for themselves at that time. And that has been a couple of innovative ideas that we've plugged in to create this agile journey.
Sure, you've unpacked a whole lot of different things.
I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah, indeed. But maybe let's start where you talk about how you and your husband formulated or began the journey. So from you working in a bank and training the teams that you were in, and the teams doing well and training other teams, from then, how did you sort of realize that I actually want to train a lot of people? I mean, till date, I think you've trained over 50,000 people.
Yes.
Yeah. How did that happen? Take us through that journey.
So when I looked at I was only 22 when I became a team leader of my very team. And if you know my personality, I'm very jovial. And being that jovial team member, and now I had to become your team leader, it didn't go down well in the bank.
Wow, 22 years old team leader.
Yes.
Wow.
So it was, so I had no qualification besides a diploma in computers and my assessors and my moderators. That's it. That's what I have in terms of qualification. So because of that, I couldn't get a high-flying job in the bank, where my husband had a degree and he was able to go into the shares department. So we both applied for jobs at the bank, and these were the jobs we got. I was in a switchboard, but the switchboard at Nedbank was actually a call center-driven switchboard. So I was at 135 Rivonia, which is head office for Nedbank, still to date, and that was where we were. That's where I started. When they realized, okay, this child, even though she doesn't have a degree or anything, is actually very intelligent and understands.
Team, yeah.
Then I started, because I loved the whole system and how it worked. The actual computer system that we were using at Dimension Data had created this telecom system that was really, innovative, and I would be curious and go into it. And as I used to go into it and others couldn't understand it, I started to take down notes about it to train, so that I could train them. I didn't understand that meant I'm actually developing a manual of any kind whatsoever. And then for processes that we had to follow, because then they sent us on this beautiful process course with Six Sigma, and I was in heaven. I loved it. So I would come back and I would reinvent our processes and creating these little booklets so that I could train the others, but literally just to train my peers. So then I became the team leader and I continued that training journey. But team leading is not only about training. So I didn't enjoy just the part where I had to now look after people that were my peers, but I found a way to get around it. It worked, and I continued that journey. But because this passion for training continued, and I created these beautiful processes, they were like, okay, but now please train the rest of the branches all over.
Professor, they're figuring it all out.
Yeah, so I then went and I was able to train at Bramp all the switchboards, and then onto NCCC. It was really nice. So that's when I joined the training team, and that's when it all began. In the larger scope of understanding. Okay, you're creating these nice little modules just for work functions, but in the bigger scheme of things, in a unit standard, this is how it actually unpacks. To this day, that is my passion. My biggest passion in life is actually creating those material around each unit standard to unpack it. So that's what I loved to do, and that's why I continued on the CETA journey. And then actually my husband was also a person that loves to teach and things. He just was in a different part of the bank. So when I started to grow and needed assistance, I was too afraid to ask somebody else to leave their job just in case. I was like, please, you come help me. You understand processes. So while I love to develop material, and he obviously also had the skill to develop material, the job also entailed you training and assessing and moderating. It was a whole package of things that we needed to do. And as we grew, my husband found his space in operations, getting the business growing. So if I said, okay, these are the classes we have, I need 3 more classrooms, he would make it happen. So we would just have the symbiotic relationship of I had this set of skills, he had this set of skills, and we just helped us growing organically over the years into a national company from our dining room table.
Wow, what a story, what a story. But maybe let's backtrack. Theta, what is Theta?
Okay, a Theta, so what we have SAQA is the body of qualifications in South Africa. So that's the South African Qualifications Authority. No qualification can be recognized in South Africa if it is not registered with SAQA. So there's a lot of, so the universities, everybody, so whether you are a DHET a college or whether you are a council on higher education college like the universities and so on, all the qualifications you have must be registered. So there are scripted qualifications. So that means when I say scripted, it'll mean that these are what is available and you can become accredited for it. Or you could use your imagination, like with the universities and so on, and create new qualifications, like your MBAs and your all of that. And in creating new content, you can also get it registered with SAQA. You just have to follow the guidelines that support those. So everything has to be registered with SAQA. But then when this new form, this in-between formula of qualifications, these one-year certificates came into space for each industry, it became an enormous task to just be owned by SAQA. It needed to be, SAQA would create the script, but someone needed to drive it. So the CETAs were then created. And the CETAs had 2 functions, and still to date. Their one function was to quality assure the qualifications within their industry. So each CETA, we've got 21 CETAs, and each CETA has about 3 or 4 industries that they speak to. So like wholesale and retail. So it's both wholesale and retail and all the qualifications. Then there's bank, then there's facet, which is finance. Then whatever, if when in doubt, everything else went to services CETA. So services CETA has like 37 industries of qualifications that they run, but everyone else has just within that sector that they support. So then what happened was they then were created to quality assure. And then the other mandate, because we were driven by wanting companies to support this function, and that meant that their levies and their tax were getting paid to SARS for each. So when you employ somebody, you have to pay SDL levy with their salary.
Okay,
which
so maybe before you continue there, because I think you're explaining in a beautiful way. I just want to finish off the part. So the CETAs regulate all these qualifications. What NQF is that? The CETAs.
It's between NQF 1 to 5.
NQF 1 to 5.
Yeah.
CETAs regulate that because it was becoming too much for SAQA to regulate.
Yes.
Okay. So now let's continue with the story. So in that process, when you now do your 1-year accreditation, I'm hearing you talk about SARS and tax. Is that a job? Is that, how did that come in?
So the one mandate was the quality assuring and making sure that everyone is accredited and up to standard, and all the certificates and everything are checked, within that system. The other mandate the CETA had was when you pay your SDL levy as a company, that money, 70% of it goes to the CETAs, and the CETAs take 20% of it. And to run the CETA, and the rest SDL, they have to give it back as
SDL.
SDL is your skills development levy. So each company that makes over 500,000 rands has to pay for each staff member salary 1% of that salary to SARS as a tax rebate, as a tax payment. Once you pay that tax over, it goes to the CETA. And the CETA controls that spend to give you back in mandatory amounts. That means any training you do internally as a company, you get it back. You can claim it. And then you see, so you see how it works. So why it benefit
but
for the company?
I want just to break it down.
Yeah, we'll break it down.
So if your company makes 500,000 rand per annum,
right, or more
revenue,
yes,
for each employee that you employ, you must pay 1%
of their 1% of your wage bill. Yes.
Okay, of their salary over to the tax man, right? Together with the rest of the taxes you need to pay. From that amount that every employee in the country contributes to.
Yes.
So how many billions is that?
Many.
Many billions.
many billions.
Okay, so from those billions every month, 70% of that must go to?
So I stand corrected. I don't know if it's the whole amount goes over and then it's shared out. So the whole amount goes over to the SETAs.
Okay.
20% of which the SETA retains for admin fees. Because remember, they have to pay staff and they have to pay all the whole. So they need some funds to run.
Okay.
So that SETA uses 20% of that money to run the administration. Then they take another portion. I think it's 20% because the percentages change over the years because now there's a QCTO and they get 10%. So some of the money is given back to the company. You claim it back for mandatory training. So mandatory training is when you have to train your staff on certain skills. So just say you pay for your social skills person that does your software developer to go and do software training. You can claim that back from as mandatory spend, and the SETA gives you back that money.
Is that why companies offer bursaries for their employees? Do they?
Yeah. So bursaries is different. We'll speak about that now.
Okay.
But yes, but it can actually also be part of this mandatory spend.
If it's an NQF,
correct,
1 to 5. I'm guessing.
No. A bursary can be any
NQF.
You can go, and it can be in varsity or anything.
Okay.
You still can get whatever training you do, informally or formally for your staff. If you script it and you have a register and proof of the training, you can claim for that training against your mandatory amount, which is like 40% of that levy.
So do you claim and not pay it over, or do you claim from SETA?
You can claim it back from SETA. The SETA pays it back to you. So every company that pays their levies, like we are, our SETA is obviously ETDP SETA, which is the Education and Training SETA. So they will pay us back that money.
For training
of my staff. Yeah. So I have 110 staff members. So from there, any training that I do nationally, yes. Yeah. So if there's any training that I do for them, then I can claim that back from as mandatory spend. Not
and when you claim back,
person.
Do you get 40% or you get the whole amount back?
Yeah. So from that 40% that you paid, from the 1% of the levy you paid, 40% up to 40% of it can be claimed back in your training.
So you can actually claim back all the amount to pay
the
40%
whole training. Yes, correct.
Oh, wow.
So just say 40% translates into 200,000. You can do training to the tune of 200,000 internally with your staff. It can be with external providers, but then you get that money back.
And this is why big companies always do training.
Correct. And then there's another portion. There is a discretionary, the rest of the remaining money at the SETA becomes a discretionary fund. So from the discretionary amount of money, the SETA at their discretion can allocate that funds to companies that are very conscientious and do training well, for them to not only train their staff, but also youth. They give them, you can apply for that funding and say, okay, I can train 100. You just say, I am a logistics company or a warehousing company, and I have ability to host certain amount of learners for a year, maybe just say 50 learners within my, for packing services, whatever, or admin. They can then apply to the SETA for this funding, and the SETA will pay for that training and the stipends for those learners in that time.
But maybe explain that. So a company applies to SETA to say, I'm a media company, and I've got maybe cameramen, etc. So claim from SETA to do what? What is SETA paying for? SETA is paying for
an industry qualification that you would do,
which would be because
remember there's skills that are required in each industry. So there will be a scarce skills component in each SETA. So just say, for example, you'll be surprised, but at the moment, sales is a scarce skills in the country because nobody likes to do sales work. But sales is actually if you do it right, it's a really, really rewarding job to have. As you know, so it's really something that can be rewarding. So just say if that is a gap, then for a sales qualification, and that potentially would sit with services SETA, for example, they may put out a window to say we're giving discretionary funding for sales qualifications. Then a company that does sales predominantly like a call center, for example, will apply for that funding. And then they will attach a training provider that is accredited to that. So they will work together with the training company to say, okay, let's apply for this funding. It'll obviously be only under the levy paying member's name. So under the company's name. So just say the call center's name is 123. It'll be under 123's name, but then this is the training provider who's accredited that will run the training, and then the monies are allocated to
What
that
is
company.
money used for? Is when you say the money is allocated to that company, that company is able to use the money to do what?
Train those learners. So just say you got an allocation for 50 learners. Then you pay the training spent over to the training provider for that 50 learners, and then the CETA will pay the stipend. So within that journey, another good part of the journey is it's a paid process, meaning that learner, while they're studying, will get a stipend to be able to travel with and food and so on for that time. So just say they're going to get 4,500 rands a month to be able to go to work, go to school to study at the college, as well as to go to a workplace.
So they get 4,500?
Well, minimum wage usually. Like there are some people that will do it a little less, but generally it's between 4,500, 4,000 to 4,500 that they get a month currently.
From CETA directly?
No. From the company. And the company. So in some, it depends on the CETA.
Yeah.
There are some CETAs that pay directly to the learner. There are some CETAs that pay over to the company, and the company then administers that fund.
So when the CETAs get the money and they give the money to somebody to do the training, they pay the stipend and also pay for the training as well.
That's right. Because the training provider needs to obviously pay for facilitators, assessors, moderators, and so on. That's the training journey. The training journey has its own expenses. So they pay for that, and they pay for the learner to be able to access the opportunity.
But what about cases, I'm just imagining if somebody needs a practical training, do you place them, the young people, in a company?
Yes, you have to.
Okay.
So either the levy paying company. So just say in most cases when you apply for funding, you host the learner. But in the event you're not able to host all of the learners, generally, or in our company, we're a training provider that will find a host company. So we do learnerships for over 500 companies. So within that pool, we have companies that will host learners. So that's how we do it. So they just say you are allocated 50, but you can only host in your company 10 or 20. Then we would take the other 30. We have a whole department that manages that process. That we have workplace mentors. They go into the workplace, and our guys check in on them, collect their registers, so that there's proof of the fact that they are at the workplace and so on. We have that.
So your institution works in hand with the company that is
Yes.
actually training the student. Maybe let's move into
No. So we, the company that trains the students, we work in hand with the sponsoring company who's sponsoring the students. They're also paying our fee for training, and then we find them workplaces if the company can't find them workplaces to be hosted at, so that they get the work experience.
Okay, so you don't work with the government?
No.
Okay, so you work with the company that
The company. We don't apply for training. We don't apply for any funding from the CETAs.
Oh, wow.
Companies do that.
Very interesting. And I mean, moving on to the labor side of things, where you actually place the students or the learners, you obviously are a registered labor broker.
Yes.
How have you found that the labor processes work within the industry? Are they accommodating?
So you don't have to be a labor broker to be able to host learners with companies. A lot of training providers will find the learner host place, but because that part is free, no one needs to pay for hosting. So just say, for example, you say to me, I need an extra cameraman. Do you have somebody that I can host? I'll train them on how to be a cameraman. Maybe someone that's doing tech support would fit in with that function. Then we would allocate a learner to you. You will have that person. You will train them, and they'll do their work experience by you. And your benefit is that you don't have to pay them anything because they are getting their stipend from the sponsoring client. Then the learner's benefit is that they're getting the experience, and there's a very big potential that if they do really well, you may keep them because you needed them as a resource in any event. And over the period of time that you had them, you were able to do more work and grow your business, so that helped you to be able to keep them. So then oftentimes you then make them permanent by you.
Have you found that there's a shortage of companies that do accept people? How's the balance? Is it that whoever gets a learnership gets placement, or is there an imbalance there?
There is an imbalance. So it's interesting because we've just come up with a mechanism. In the past, we are under this impression, because we see so many big companies like banks and things, we are under the impression that that is where you need to place people. What we didn't realize, or just recently found out, is that 95% on any company's economy is actually SMME companies. I didn't know that. I had no idea. And though then we looked at how do we, because if you took a sample of Durban has 250,000 SMMEs. If we were able to place 250,000 learners at those SMME sites, that is a large scale amount compared to what we're currently doing. If I love saying we have at any given time 4,500 learners in the system. That is a fraction, because we need to get at least 7 million in order for us to turn this around. There's 7 million youth that are unemployed currently. Do you know what I'm saying? So yes, it feels nice to say, 200 people, we managed to find permanent work for 200 people. That sounds like we changed a lot of lives, but actually in the bigger scheme of the stats, it's a drop in the ocean.
So there are more students waiting to be placed.
Absolutely. So if we were able to put 250,000 people into SMMEs in Durban, for example, that is a huge, big, from the amount we're doing currently, but then we need to make sure that person becomes employed at the end. And an SME may not have that type of money. So what we're trying to do is empower the learner in addition to their learnership that they are getting sponsored. We are, again, out of our pockets, and then in some instances, the UIF is funding projects where we are able to give them Office 365, so your Microsoft suite of skills. We give them that, communication skills and social media skills. So what we do is we then send that learner who's now prepped to really help a small business. Because if they take away admin from you and you're able to go out and sell more, and if they are able to also advertise you on social media and you can grow more, you would be better off at the end of that learnership, and then you would be able to have space and money to pay them. Now they become employable. So in order to do this entire win-win situation where the SMME grows, the learner is employed, and on a massive scale, we are now targeting SMMEs in a big way. Because the corporates can only do so much, and they are doing really a lot, and we're very grateful to the private sector of South Africa. They are making a massive change in trying to get learners out there to become employable. But this is really now our driving tool, because if we could, it then changes the mass numbers and ratio of what we are trying to accomplish in a large way. So that's our biggest drive now at the moment.
So how does it work? You approach a small business and maybe the process, and you bring the learner. Maybe take us through the process.
Okay, so in order for an SMME to understand that, we're working with the business chambers in each region. The reason I picked on Durban is we started with Durban. There's this amazing lady, her name is Adele. Surname escapes me now, but her company is called the Success Company, and she's the one that's driving this initiative. And she lives in Durban. So we worked with the Durban Chamber, but we're not going to stop there. We're now obviously going to go to everywhere. And in the meanwhile, within our client base and the SMMEs that we do know, we are now starting the process already in Joburg. So what we're doing is we're working with the chamber so that we are able to find out who are the SMMEs in large quantities, and then we are contacting them and building that engagement and explaining the opportunity to them. So we're hosting like indabas and network breakfasts and so on to get them to us to be able to understand what the goal is and how we want to achieve it. So that's what's helpful about us also being registered, having a registered company called Advanced Outsource as a labor brokerage, because now we are able to be versatile in how we address opportunities from in that point of view, and also having the credibility behind us being a registered institution.
Yeah, who pays for that labor process?
So
between
the labor process
the finding somebody and placing them, that admin, who would pay for that? Would the CETA pay for that as well?
No.
Placement?
No. Okay. So initially, if it's organic, meaning wherever we host them, they then become employed, which is beautiful and lovely, and we want that. Then nobody pays for that. That comes out of our pocket. It's just something that we want, because our aim and passion is to we don't just say it, we mean it. 90% of my workforce are past learners. We really, really put our money where our mouth is. We don't just say it for the sake of saying it. We want everybody employed. And that was way before we heard of any other initiative to do that. We really, really, that's our biggest drive in this whole process. So that part, nobody pays for. But in the event that, there's besides the opportunity and the tax rebates and so on that a company would get to do learnerships, the other big driving reason that companies engage and do learnerships is for their BEE scorecard. So it is not, you as a company are not forced to participate in BEE, but it does make you more legible as a company. So companies, one of the pillars on the BEE scorecard is skills development for your staff, but also for unemployed youth. So that's another reason and driver why companies are doing learnerships at large scale for youth. And we want to support that, not just to be a provider that's just, getting on learners and then getting everybody educated and going nowhere with it. We want to then also support that in part where they become employed. What happens is a company gets points, additional bonus points on the scorecard for skills if a certain percentage of that learnership, people on that learnership get employed. So just say, for example, if there's 10, at least 2 must be employed and they pay for that absorption. They pay for that. So what I do is I take that money at the moment, that is not a profit to we utilize it to get everybody employed. We're trying. So now we really getting to a stage where it's starting to look more and more promising because of these initiatives that I've mentioned now and other such initiatives. But that's our driving force. And eventually we are a labor brokerage. What we will do is the percentage of people that we're not getting paid for currently, we will then ask a percentage of the person who then makes them permanent. Do you know how a recruitment agency works?
Yeah.
So that's where we will eventually start getting the additional money from.
From this learnership process, so I know you said there's a practical part and there's the modular part. How does it work? Is it 3 months maybe at the institution and 7 months how does that process work?
Yes, but it works differently. So we want to teach you a module, we want you to go and learn it. So what we do is we start your hosting and your training almost at the same time. So obviously there'll be a little bit of time where you may do more training at one point and less workplace or vice versa, but we try to start that at the very beginning of the 12 months. Thereafter, you come in for your training days, you receive a schedule. And on those days of training, you come into our institution, and the remaining days you go to the company. But, like we said, we are an agile place. So what that means is in some instances, a company may say to us, no, I don't want the disturbance. You train them up front, and then you give them to me. So then we do block training. Okay. So this is where our agile, customized process and approach comes to. We could do it however the company feels, however it best suits the company and the learner. We would never put the learner at a disadvantage. So we're not going to do anything that would impact that. But whatever else we can do to make it easier for the person that's hosting the learner, we would accommodate it.
This is a very interesting module. So you've created Cub Club, an interactive learning platform designed to assist parents and teachers. I wanted to ask about that. What was that about?
So Cub Club is what we noticed when our learner came to us, there would be this amazing children that, a diamond in the rough. But they would not speak or they'd be too nervous. And what we noticed, we then started to research. I'm a researcher in the company, but we also just started to call schools or started to engage with the learner. And we realized that due to our overcrowded classrooms, a lot of absorption. Remember, children are fidgety by nature. That's the nature of children. One of them is to be fidgety and to play around with each other. If you're sitting in a classroom of 60 children, already, if it was 10 in the class, they were going to be fidgety in any event. But now, if you've got 60 kids, more than half of the class are not listening to you, and you don't have the reach and the ability to reach all of them because they're going to be talking and you. So it's maybe the kids at the front that are going to be absorbing information. Most of the information that you've taught is not getting out there. So as much as we think we don't have a very good education system, we actually have a brilliant education system. We don't have the ability to deliver it properly at the moment.
So profound, yeah.
So then what happens is when you come to our institution, you do have a matric certificate, but actually you hardly heard what you...
Yeah.
And so you can't apply. You don't want to say anything. You don't want to disrupt the process, and you don't want to admit you don't understand the English that the lecturer, the facilitator is saying. You just want to be quiet. And a lot of them hadn't seen a computer yet, and we are paperless. It means when you come to our institution, you'll be working on a tablet or a computer. That is how you will do your assignment. End of story. That's how it works. So because of that, we realize we're putting the learner at a disadvantage. We first must train them on computer skills before we can put them on, because the learners are nervous and they're failing not because they don't understand what to do or they lack intellect. They're failing because we are failing them in that they didn't have these skills. So that's what drove us to start Cub Club. And we wanted to create something. I just sat one day and thought, how are we going to right this wrong? Because we're going to continue, this is going to continuously happen. And then continuously, we are going to get a despondent learner who thinks they're stupid. And then everyone else also thinks you're not very bright because you're not showing any skill, but you weren't given the opportunity to absorb any information. So actually, you might be a very bright child that nobody realizes is bright, and you might be the next Elon Musk and nobody will ever know because you just are now downplaying yourself because you're so afraid to admit you don't have the skills to do any more than that. So if we could change that landscape, if our tool, if the education, the whole CAPS curriculum is actually on a tablet for the child, because remember, a lot of schools use tablets these days, but imagine if we gave every child in a public school a tablet. Immediately they engage you. Think about a child with a phone. You can't get a hold of that child. They can be sitting next to you, but they're not listening to you because they're engaged on the tablet. If it was a fun tool for them to work on, and now the teacher is talking, she's got most likely 60%, the whole 60 listening to her because everybody now wants to see what's happening on this tool. Then she starts speaking. There's more absorption of information.
Yeah.
The learner knows how to use this digital platform that's going to rule their entire life as they grow older, because that's how the mode of working the world is.
Yeah.
And they're going to be able to do their assignments online. They're going to be able to ease of reference. It's better reporting. It's everything. And the lesson plans are done already. This minimizes or saves the teacher so much time. She can concentrate on the kids in the class instead of doing all of those other things. And much of the assignment is actually marked by the computer. That can be done. The only thing that is not is when you need to write an essay. That's when the teacher has to mark. So we're saving so much time for the teacher that they have energy to teach this overcrowded classroom, and the kids are engaged. So absorption of information, the way a kid handles computers as they grow older, better decision-making skills, because now you can be choosy about which qualification, because now you have ability or you're confident in yourself, you are then able to come out to say, okay, but then I want to study this. I have a passion or a drive or a like for this subject. Let me study that because now I at least know all my avenues. I know about university, I know about college, I know about learnerships, and I know about artists. Now I can choose, and I know I'll be confident in the class to ask questions, do what I want to do, because the confidence level is different.
That's very profound, because I'm just thinking about my time in high school and in university. A lot of the times I was the student at the back figuring out my computer because I thought, what the lecturer is teaching is stuff that I already know.
Yeah.
So I was never engaged until they said the assignment is due on, then I'd be like, okay, to listen to the date. Okay, I know when to submit. So what you're saying is so profound, because if it is a gadget, then the teacher is able to say, you've already finished all your lessons. You finished the whole semester, because I would do that.
Yeah.
And I think that would make things so much different in the education system. But maybe let's talk about that to say, why is it that our education system in the country is very bad, according to what many people say in terms of the output that it's giving? There's a lot of people that are saying a lot of the youth in the country are unemployable. And I think the first person was who really made a stir was DJ Zintle, when she said South African youth are very much unemployable, and a whole lot of people attacked. Then there are those that are saying, but how do you drop the percentage of the pass rate to 30%? Then there are those that are saying, the teachers are the problem. I want us to dissect this. What is your thoughts on the education system?
It is exactly what I've just said to you now. You can streamline the problem to exactly what I told you now. There will be obviously a percentage where teachers are not so. You'll have some schools where you got a funny maths teacher, and you'll have some schools where the students are not engaged, and you'll have some. All of what you're saying are not things that are incorrect. It's just a very small fraction of the problem. It is not the problem. The reason that they had to drop the rate is because so little kids were failing based on the fact that they cannot get the content in. So again, the education system is not bad. The problems are the overcrowded classrooms, mainly. In the past, this is the same education system we've used for a very long number of years, and the only reason it's a problem now is because we have to cater for the entire country, which is a brilliant thing, and it's a great thing, and that's where we want. But having said that, these are the drawbacks that we have. And as much as we could then say, okay, let's make 10 schools better and have more classrooms and do this, it'll never address the bigger bulk of the problem. So the only way to do it is to actually, if there's going to be an overcrowded classroom or not, a device always makes best sense. So rather go to that as a solution than trying to solve a problem that is far more expensive to do. This is far more reasonable and something that companies can assist with. So again, within the pillars of BEE, one of the other pillars is socioeconomic development. And that's the part we are speaking to when we are talking about this tool, for companies to donate toward that. So then they could have a device and then we could, roll it out to as much schools as possible.
Oh, wow, that's profound. Talking about, what makes your company different, you explained that you do psychometric tests that allow you to inform whether this person should be working with their hands or whether they should be in more administrative roles. What have you found with that and how effective is it?
I found that it's really effective in both phases, at the beginning and then when we are looking for a job for the learner at around month 10. So what we do is at month 10, we're contacting the host company to ask them, are you interested in keeping the learner long term? And if the answer is, unfortunately, I can't, we then start looking for jobs for them through advanced outsource. And at that time, we look at what is out there in the market, what are the gaps that the learner may have. So just say you are 70% employable for this job, but you don't have maybe the additional advanced Excel because that wasn't part of your qualification. Then advanced outsource, again, out of our own pockets, we are paying for the learner to have that so that the learner can be more employable and now are maybe 80 or 85% employable, a match for that job. And then we send them for those interviews. So that's what we're doing to help, close that gap. So the psychometric helps us as well at that phase to just see, again, revisit what was the learner best suited for and which roles do we have now that we can plug in and assist the learner. To close the gap. I want to also go back and address the question that you raised about the youth being unemployable. Yes, absorption of information is really one of the reasons why, because their poor absorption of information makes their matric certificate feel worthless, because it's you don't really know what you may have winged it and managed to answer and pass, and 35% pass rate is really a failure rate. It's not a pass rate. So they're not employable, yes. The other thing is the social norms. Remember, a lot of kids have child-aided households. So in a child-aided household, where are you going to learn morals and ethics and things? Where are you getting those, work readiness skills? Like I always use this example of when I was in school, we had to, after assembly on a Wednesday, clean the school, go up and pick up litter from the grounds. It created such a neural pathway. I can never see litter on the ground ever in my life. It is just impossible. I will pick it up. But can you see the conscientiousness that does? At schools today and at homes today, that type of conscientiousness is not driven anymore really because it's just difficult. It's too many people and the teachers, they don't have the drive to do that, to be able to say, okay, I insist you guys are going to pick up all the litter on the ground and then stick to it and make it happen every single week. It's difficult for them to do it. So there are a lot of reasons. The person is not wrong when they say our youth is far less employable now than they might have been in the past. But it's up to us now, especially in a college like myself, where I can, try to fix that. So those are the other initiatives we're looking at to fix. In terms of, so we're working with KPM a psychology company. I'm working with some education psychologists to try and see how we can drive conscientiousness, whether it's a computer app that they sit there and they do the same thing over and it drives them to do it. And during Cub Club, within the Cub Club scope in Aloe, we have inputted things like help a lady cross the street, do this skill, do that skill. So even if they're not getting it at home, they will be able through Cub Club to gain those conscientiousness. But that's now for our youth that are in school still. But the ones that are with us, we're going to try our very best to create those type of employable skills that a workplace is looking for, like someone to know I should be on time. It shouldn't be, oh, I'm just making it. I'm just that person that is a little late, unprepared. I get there, now I still need coffee now, so I'm unproductive. I'm 80% productive where I could be 100% productive. So we are trying to do lots of work readiness programs and boot camps and things that we're putting into our learnerships to raise that level of employability so that the person has those skills a workplace is looking for.
I mean, when I looked at your story, it was very inspiring to realize that you started off in retail at a shoe store.
Yes.
And I mean, looking at how far you've come, maybe let's start there for those that don't know. What was the beginning like when you were was that your first job?
Yes, I was 13 years old. So what happened was, so I always look a little older than my age, and I came from a low income area. I lived in Chatsworth, and we are family of 5 kids, and my dad had a terrible accident when we were younger. So he was by trade a boilermaker welder, but because he now had this, he was unemployed for a number of years. So we were just making it. It wasn't easy. And I had goals and inspirations, and I was just an energetic somebody, and I couldn't sit at home any longer. And I went to the mall. We have a mall in Chatsworth. It's called the Chatsworth Center. And I started to walk around the mall and ask for a job. I said, I'm 16 years, because you had to be 16 years old at the time. And the shoe store said, okay, yes, I actually have a job. I think I got 10 Rand a day or 30 Rand a day or something small like that. I was so excited. And with that job, I was able to I went to modeling school. I put myself through tuition for things that I needed. And I worked there. And thereafter, I worked at KFC. And then I worked at right till matric. I worked at KFC till matric. And then in matric, I started working at a casino. And then I worked at Total Sport, then Avon, Nedbank, and where I am now. So that journey of retail continued because I had that skill, I think. And those jobs, each job taught me a different set of skills. The first one obviously empowered me to put up with any type of resistance because I had a drive and I had a reason that I wanted to be there. So it was irrespective of how you're going to speak to me or how I was going to be approached, because it was not maybe the healthiest environment in terms of the way we worked. But it wasn't so bad, actually. To be honest, I don't view anything as really bad. But because I'm there for me and my purpose for why I'm there, I will not view any other thing as a deterrent or a reason for why I shouldn't be there. And even at KFC, what I learned at KFC, and I was just actually mentioning to my staff the other day, what I learned at KFC was, I was a expediter. So they taught you clean as you go at KFC, and expediter means you make the burgers and then you give it to the people in the front, and there's a teller, and the teller rings it up, and then that was where I started. No matter what job you did at KFC, one of your tasks was to clean. And you would even clean the toilets. It didn't matter what level, whether you were a teller, whether you were an expediter, whatever your job was, that was one of the tasks that you do. And it allowed me to realize that no matter what level you're at, you must be able to pick up a mop, you must be able to roll up your sleeves and do what you have to do. And I love that, because to this day, that is how I run my company and how I live my life. So if it is that I need to pick up a mop, there's a flood, some pipe is blocked, I will do it. It allows you to realize that every job has a beautiful value in the world, and you should be able to do everything.
I mean, you've been very diverse in your business ventures: advanced outsourcing, Cub Club, Fresh Afternoon, a guest house, the spa. What budded that entrepreneurial journey to try all these different industries, and which ones have you continued with?
So the great thing is that everything, it's as much as it sounds diverse, it all stemmed from advanced assessments and advanced assessments needs. So when you look at what the college needed, it needed a recruitment agency. It needed learners to be at a better level. So Cub Club was driven from the requirement of that. Advanced outsource was driven from the requirement of needing the learner to be placed. And the guest house and the canteen were all and the spa, we've got a spa as well, are part of the journey of allowing the rest of the things to happen. So the guest house, we are also a Prometric center. I don't know if you know what Prometric is. It's an international exam center, and doctors need to do their CPD points from all over it's international. So meaning, if you wanted to leave the country and you need to write English tests, it's an exam center of all that nature.
Oh yes, yeah, I've done one of those before.
Yeah. Pearson VUE is another one.
Yes.
We are an accredited Pearson VUE and an accredited Prometric center. So people come from all parts of Southern Africa, because we're the only one in Johannesburg, that and come to write their exams there. They often need a place to stay, because they at least must stay over a day or two nearby. So we often have to use a guest house around the area. And we have qualifications like chef qualification and all of those, and hospitality and so on. So we merged the two ideas. Let's get a small guest house so that we can house the prometric people. We have the spa there that they can come to, and we have learners that we can host there, and so on. So it's this journey. It's that whole thing of creating more employable needs and speaking to the needs of advanced assessments and speaking to so everything's growing very beautifully. Thank you. So we still have all of those entities. Fresh Afternoon is there. We own the office park that we're in. So Fresh Afternoon is the name of our property company, because now we're thankful that we also are getting an office park in Durban. So our aim is wherever we're at, because we are national, we have offices in Durban and a college in Durban and Cape Town as well, but we want to buy the property around that it supports. So Fresh Afternoon is just that entity that our properties are part of.
Wow. We're in Women's Month in South Africa. And, I'm just imagining the young girl selling shoes in Durban, 13 years old. And now this powerful woman who's running a company that employs over 100 people and is doing so well. What kept you going? I mean, many people sort of say, women are not as fearless as men. And some people say that women are very non-business type of people. But you're doing it. You're a female. You're leading one of the best companies in that industry. What keeps you going?
Maybe because I've never heard that before. This is the first time I'm hearing anybody say women are not fearless.
No, I was saying what people say. It's not my opinion.
Yeah, I know. No, I've not heard that, and I think I have this. Should I say it came from my dad? My dad had this ability to shut off noise. So if he had something to do, it wouldn't matter what anybody said. I'm so grateful to have the same skills. So irrespective of, it's not that I won't listen and absorb, and I'm not capable of taking advice. That is very much what I am capable of doing. I'm also capable of listening to everything and absorbing it and making it my own. So when I hear information, I listen to it the way I want to listen to it. And then everything else is white noise. I don't listen to it at all. So I'm able to focus and do what I feel is I can listen to my heart and go with my gut. If you really listen to your gut, I'm not talking about listening to some advice and really listening to your mind or your heart. I'm talking about listening to your gut. Everyone's gut gives them the right advice. If you have to realize what's your what's emotionally driving you and what's driving your mind. But then if you really listen, there's a gut feel and go with that gut. Everybody's gut is correct. And I'm sure that happened with you as well. If you go with your gut, it's right. It's supposed to be what it's supposed to be. And I think that's just the way a human being is made up. A human being is made up with a very lucky ability to have a sixth sense, and is, that it brings in your entire energy, your mind, body, and soul, and is able to give you a decision. And if you go with it, you'll always win.
I love that where you said that you have this ability of blocking out sort of the naysayers and everything else and really focusing. In the journey of focusing, when did it get tough? Because, for you to have built and to have employed and done so well, there must have been many mountains you've climbed. But when was the journey where you said, oof, this is tough? And what was going on in that part?
Okay, so there was a huge space between 2009 and 2012 where it was just tough. The tough part was that we were first an RPL center that plugged into other training providers. And because as much as we had this beautiful skill of creating awesome processes that was super successful, we were not really salespeople. You could either be one or the other. You really can't be everything in your journey. Therefore, collaboration is really important. So for me, my idea of collaborating was to collaborate with training companies. And the Department of Education took over the CETAs from the Department of Labor. And Blade was the minister at the time. I don't know if he still is, but he was the minister at the time. And he said that everybody has to be a training provider. He didn't care whether you were just doing RPL or just doing one part. You had to be a complete training provider. It makes sense in the bigger scheme of things. So he didn't believe that RPL or just being an assessment center was something that should be a standalone. He believed that every provider should be able to deliver both to people that don't have a skill and with people that have a skill. that's actually true. So we all have to become training providers. And then the trainees providers said to us, but then I can't work with you. How will I work with you when you my assessor and facilitator? You have your own it's competition. So we lost a bit of business. And when we lost that business, we had our first child. In 2007, we had our first child, but then now it's 2009, and we have just 2 companies that we're servicing as a provider, but that obviously is not going to manage to pay the bills. And that was when we were very fortunate that the CETA approached me to become a verifier, because then that helped us through that journey till 2012. And then in 2012, my husband got sick. He developed kidney failure. So that was a little bit difficult. And so that's why I said that journey is the difficult part. And, really, we had to grow from it. It taught us the hard lessons in life. But then after that, we really started to understand it, how, he had a very positive attitude and how he was going to navigate through this. So it just worked out. We had our second child in 2010, and we just, I think positivity, beautiful, awesome people around us supporting us. We just continued our organic growing journey as if, it is what it was. So that just helped us.
Beautiful story. How do you balance all this? Children, personal life, the growth of the business, you're national now as a business. How do you find the balance in your life?
I was very fortunate to have met a few people that told me that, you must be able to do everything at the same time. So what I took from that is I must enjoy. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to do this and then I'll enjoy my life later, or I'll do I'll work hard. No, every of those things, whether it's good, the bad, the ugly, all must happen together. So if that is the case, then I love what I do. I have energy. So my kids grow up with us, and even within the company, everything happens together. We have a very together approach. So nothing happens on its own. If we party together. If we work together. So everything, most of my family works in the business with me. My staff are my family. So our approach to business, our approach is that Advanced Assessments is a family. Our clients feel like family. So even though we grew in this time, it feels to them like a mom and pop shop because everyone still feels included. So might be this large organization now, but everyone still feels like part of a family. Come to us one of the days, open the door, and from reception, you'll feel this warmth and this energy and this love. So I included everything together ever since I heard that. Nothing stayed on its own, and it worked.
Wow. I mean, and I think, it's one thing that I always admire about the Indian community is that when they start a business, it benefits the whole community in a beautiful way. Yeah. But people have also said that there are issues with working with family. And I mean, you started the business your husband was in the bank and then he came in. How have you found it? Does it work? Is it a model that you say this is a great model, starting business with your loved one?
Remember I said I push out the white noise. I hear what I want to hear. So if you have trouble, please own it. I only want to hear what I want to hear. So no, we do not have any issues. And if there are issues, you keep it to yourself and you resolve it yourself and we move on. So the good part is that when I look at a person and the skills that they have, like my brother runs the company for me, he's a general manager. He worked in the Edcon group in retail for 18 years before he joined us. His skill level on operation is on another level. He left Edcon. He was in a few of the retail spaces, but he left there as an optimization manager. His ability to look at a space and see what it can be is the reason I own so many properties today. He's just got this ability. He can come in and he can tell you how you can maximize and make people, processes, and technology efficient. Is amazing. That's the skill I want. That's what you bring into the company. Anything else you have, please leave it outside. So I have another brother that was with me from the time we started. He was the first facilitator we employed other than ourselves, my husband and I, when we needed another facilitator, like, come join us. He's still with me to this day as a facilitator because he's also got a passion for learning and development. And that's what you bring to the table. Please leave everything else outside. And then we work. So I think that's what I've got a niece that's also a facilitator now. My brother's wife is a facilitator as well. My sister does the assessments for Cub Club for me because she was a teacher. She's got a master's degree in education. Bring your beautiful skills. Let us work together with our skills. Let us leave any negative personality traits on the outside. But generally, we were very, as much as I always say, We were brought up with, we didn't have a lot of money. What we had was a very good mother and father that gave us a lot of love. So we were very rich in that. And my mom was a person that never gave energy to negativity. She would resolve a problem if we had it, but she did not give it energy and space and too much time. Got a problem? This is how we're solving it. It's over. She didn't give emotion to unnecessary things. And as a result, neither do we as kids. If there's a problem, if we have a problem, let's solve it and move on. We're not going to fester here and make this become a problem and that breaks the family. None of us have that attitude. So that allowed us to attract those individuals, and our entire company is now a family based on that. Based on, please, whatever issue we have, let's resolve it and it's over. We're not going to address it again. What we do as well is we have a life coach, a company called Human Element that does life coaching on all levels. Myself, the Manco team, the Exco team, as well as the kids in our environment. I call them the kids, but they're administrators. That's what I mean. We train on all levels the human element. So how to bring out the best in you. So in keeping, because as we were growing, we couldn't obviously keep the family culture without having some assistance from the human element side of it. So we've got this coach that we hire that is like permanently actually based at our building now, that keeps the company understanding how to stay in the positive and how to address when we have, how to eliminate or not make challenges be a negative. So that's how we keep everything so nicely together.
I mean, 18 years in the industry, a lot of companies out there are going through change. There's AI, there's all this stuff happening. And you've been in the industry and you've been educating. What are your nuggets or lessons that you could give companies to say, in this changing environment and the way things are changing, how should they approach training and what should they be doing, and what is the advice that you would give them?
I want to say I love AI. I'll tell you why. I needed to write. Obviously, we have busy lives. My one sister is a clinical psychologist, and we needed to be the MC for my sister-in-law's birthday. And here comes Saturday is the function. Saturday morning, we're sitting. We have not put any pen to any paper. And it was an Egyptian themed party, and we were, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? We were very quick thinkers. We lucky we have the, gift of the gab. We're able to wing things, but we obviously need to process. It's a party. It's an official party. We're at Silver Star. What are we going to do? So we go into WhatsApp, and you got that AI guy that's there. You could ask them questions. And we said speech or like an MC thing on Egyptian theme party. Yeah. Did this come out with the most elaborate, beautiful story that we would have loved? We would have created ourselves in any event because we are that flamboyant type of people. This was amazing. It spoke to us in exactly the way we would, and you can tweak it, to make it so like wherever they mentioned Cleopatra, we would put my sister-in-law's name in, and it was magical. So my advice for companies is utilize these beautiful tools to save time. We don't need to anymore waste time on unnecessary things. AI can so perfectly navigate and assist us in our navigation of life by taking away all those extras. Imagine being able to do a complete MC awesome job without needing to have prepared for hours and hours before. It's amazing. It's wonderful. So work with it. Go with it. I know there's some dangers to it, but go with it because, everyone said microwaves will be dangerous. It'll give you cancer. It'll do this. Cell phones are the devil, but we're moving with it and it's working for us. Let's work with AI. It's the next level thing that we need to work with.
Sure. And for the young people, as we sort of come up to a close, there's many young people that look up to you and see a business or an entrepreneur who has done very well. What's the advice that you would give a young person coming up and wanting to be an entrepreneur, maybe in the training field or in many other different fields? What advice would you give them?
So I would, I'd love to, I want to encourage everybody to study. I never did. I didn't have really the opportunity. And maybe I did and I didn't notice because I knew I needed to make an income. I never studied formally. And my mom paid for me to do the computer course. But what I then had to do was absorb information and learn as I went along the way. And it takes you longer, obviously, to do that. And you will get to where you need to be. But if you have the opportunity to study, if you're able to get onto a learnership or to go to university, there are a lot of places that are paying for those things. Do it, because there are workshops and qualifications that you can get to be an entrepreneur, where they teach you the nuts and bolts that I had to learn through trial and error. Get onto one of those programs. It's definitely the best, most efficient way. Advice from a practical perspective is to absorb as much information as you hear. Don't ignore any bit of advice. I believe that we meet people for a reason. They have some message to give us. Listen to those messages and it'll help you on your journey, and you'll definitely reach whatever goal you wanted to set for yourself.
And the future? What does the future of the company look like? Where do you see the company in 10, 15 years from now?
So it's difficult. Why I'll say it's difficult to say is because we don't know where technology is taking us. But you can definitely watch the space, because we're not going anywhere. And we love looking at things. My brother always says you must do 3 new things a year. So every year, that's our goal, to do 3 new different things that are next level. So every year we will change the landscape and grow out, spread our wings. But where that is, I don't know, because I don't know where technology is going. But what we're looking at is creating beautiful synergies with computers, where we are able to train on another level, really create neural pathways for people through computers, alongside training between facilitator and between humans. So I don't believe that ever there should be a space where humans are taken out of the experience of training and learning, but definitely computers have a space where they can assist in those things. So that's where we're going with it. We're definitely going there with it.
I've heard you say neural pathways twice. Do you want to just explain that?
Okay, so in our mind, our brain works in such a way that in order for us, once we learn something, it creates a pathway. So when you first learned how to make a cup of coffee, you consciously learned it. So we go from a stage of unconscious incompetence to conscious competence. So within any skill that we learn, we first started where we don't know it. So somebody trains us. That's our unconscious. We don't know it. Then we are unconsciously competent. So we consciously competent because we deliberately learn you're deliberately making coffee. Now you can literally make a cup of coffee with your eyes closed. You can, while you're talking to somebody, make your cup of coffee. That's your conscious competence. You're completely competent in it. That applies to everything. When you're consciously competent, the neural pathway has been created. So that's how you go through the phases of learning in your mind. So a skill can be set in. Another good example would be getting your learners versus your license. When you get your learners, you're learning all the formative, you're learning what the rules are, then you write that test. Then you go physically drive and have to apply those rules. And then you consciously drive for a very long time after even you get your license. And then after that, you can be talking to people, it just becomes natural. So every skill eventually becomes part of your neural pathway. So, the quicker we could get to that. So I want to build in conscientiousness and, all those other things that the reason why the person says people are unemployable. I want to get our youth consciously competent on things that they currently may lack for the working world using computers.
Oh, that's very interesting. I mean, how would the neural pathways for problem solving work? Like maybe an Elon Musk who's always, it's this company, it's that company, it's always doing different things. Does that mean that they sort of train their brains to solve any problem that comes?
Yeah, so problem solving is a skill you attain through your skills of innovation, skills of decision making. So you need to build those skills and automatically you learn how to problem solve. So problem solving is not a skill on its own, like that's if that makes sense. It is something that if you have those other things, you will naturally be able to solve a problem and experience in that environment. So we want to build those other competencies in order for you to become a better problem solver in what you do.
This has been a very insightful interview. And if you wanted to be remembered for something one day, what would you want people to remember you for?
Changing the unemployment rate. I think that's why, because that really drives me. As a child, even when I slept in my bed, all I thought about is everyone should have a blanket and be warm and safe and comfortable. And that's what I want to do. So in other words, I don't know if you know what the Maslow's hierarchy of needs is. Well, you went vastly. So the first level, I want to achieve that for South Africa and possibly everywhere else, because we're now opening a branch in Swaziland.
Oh,
yeah.
Well done.
Thank you. So we want to address that. So if it's something that I'm ever known for, I don't really care to be known. I just want that to be done. If that can be done, I'll just be happy to leave the earth. I've done what I need to do. I just want everybody to be on where they're safe, they're comfortable, they're able to make decisions, they're able to go the rest of that hierarchy of needs on their own. So if we can help everyone, we can't do it alone. We have to do it together. All of us have to be invested in it together. Then we can change that. And that's what I want.
Thank you so much for joining us today on the For This Reason podcast. What an insightful story. So many lessons to take. Make sure that you go back and rewatch it because of these amazing nuggets. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.